around. He sets and throws, and this ball is caught.
So how is the Wild Wild West going to end this year? As there are about 3 or 4 teams smack in the middle of number 1, and the Huskers are actually one of them at 2 losses. And how differently it would look right now if they didn't blow that Minnesota game at the end. They would be sitting smack on top all by themselves with a game to spare in case they do split with Iowa or Wisconsin. But we realized this weekend that this West is wide open, and Nebraska can easily win all 4 of these. You know, at the beginning of the year, I did a video of how I thought the season would go. And I did make the comment that this was based on the roster at that time, not taking any considerations about any injuries, because you didn't know what was going to happen throughout the season. But you kind of knew there was going to be some injuries. There always is. But I said this is based on a full, healthy roster. And this is with, at the time I did it, this was with Xavier Betts being on the team. So I actually had Nebraska finishing 9-3, and I got laughed at. But I did have 3 to 4 games that I considered games that could go either way, depending on injuries, turnovers, and dumb penalties, things like that. So I had them what-if games. How does it go in the game itself? So I put them anywhere from around 7-5 to 9-3, but my prediction was 9-3. And it's not impossible for them to end 9-3 still. They could easily win all 4 of these games that are remaining. And keep in mind, with this defense, with Nebraska's defense, they're going to be in every one of these games, because nobody is shown to be offensive dominant. The only one we really would thought maybe would give us trouble, and they still might, is Maryland with Tagovailoa, and they're out of the East. But they've shown the last 2 weeks that they're really vulnerable. They just got beat by Northwestern, and this ought to give Nebraska some confidence, as they just beat Northwestern. And I even said Northwestern wasn't as bad as people think. They really had a pretty good defense. And because of Nebraska's defense, I do believe they could beat Maryland. The question is, how well will our offense do? Now, to me, our offense did better in this game. I know a lot of people don't think so. Oh, here we go again. We still turned the ball over so many times. Penalties, the line looked terrible. I didn't see that. Yeah, we still had the turnovers, and trust me, Rome wasn't built in a day. Nebraska didn't become a bad team overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight. But I see improvement as we go. And the one thing I liked is, to me, the offense and the offensive line, which, remember, now they got 3 new starters on that offensive line with the injuries they just had, to me actually did pretty decent. I know a lot of people won't think so, the sacks they had, but a couple of them sacks were on Harburg themselves scrambling out of there. And it's not going to be perfect. They're making their starts. So I see this team getting better and better. And to me, I thought they moved the ball at times better and better. And I know a lot of people would talk about, it's the competition. Well, you can't say that in the West. In the Big Ten, to me, they're all close. Like I was saying, they could easily win all 4, but they could easily lose all 4, which, as we've seen in recent years, that's what would happen. They would be right in it at the end, and then boom, blow it at the end, do something dumb, penalty, turnover, and lose it. That's what I've seen this year. Nebraska's still kind of shooting themselves in the foot. What do they have, 4 or 5 turnovers in this game? They lost the turnover margin and still won by 21 points, 17 points? In any other year, especially that little series where you saw Purdue score on that 3rd and 15, and then right after that, not long after that, take that 4th and 1, strip the ball out, take it all the way back for the touchdown. That's, in recent years, that's where Nebraska would have fell apart. That's where everybody would have went, here we go again. But you could see this team doesn't have that mindset. They're now believing, I believe, in Rule and his process. Just the way they played after what we saw there. After that kind of a combined mess on them plays that gave them their 14 points and brought it to 24-14. So I thought they took care of business. They were able to move the ball, pound the ball, run with them, and Emmett Johnson is becoming more and more he's going to be exciting to see. I surely hope. Sad thing about nowadays, you got to worry about people leaving. And so I think we're going to see some mass improvements, and we're going to continue to get better and better as the year goes on. I know a lot of people are saying, I don't want to win the West. I don't want to go in there after having a good year and look really bad against a Michigan team again, or Ohio State, or even Penn State, whoever pulls that one out. I kind of do. One, it will be a good measuring stick again. It's going to be a different game to me than what you saw at Michigan. Michigan, I still think they were at that stage where they kind of didn't believe in themselves, where now with Illinois going in there and beating the teams, and Northwestern beating Maryland, and I think now they're actually seeing, wow, we're not as bad as we think we were. And that's what Rule's trying to get him when he sees these games. He's probably telling them, look, you guys are not as bad as you guys think you are. They're not as good as we want them to be. But remember, the old saying always goes when you watch these games at the end of it, it's never as bad as it looks, and it's never as good as it looks. Defense looked really good, right? But when you go back and watch that film, it's not as good as you think it is. A lot of mistakes, a lot of things they could clean up on themselves. But I'm being optimistic. Nothing's perfect. Got a lot of young players on that defensive side. You got Buford coming back. Don't know if he's going to play this week, but he's coming back. So we have nothing but going up, and I just see this defense getting better and better to the point about time we would play in that Big Ten championship game. They probably wouldn't win the game, but I bet you they keep it close when they do it, and if they did kind of upset them, the only way they're going to upset a team like Michigan or Ohio State or somebody like that is that defense is just going to have to play outstanding, and that's going to have to be the game you do not turn the ball over, and maybe you're going to have to win the turnover battle yourself. But the one thing you did see, you saw improvement in the special teams. They had a blocked field goal for a touchdown. You saw Travis hit that 55-yarder. I mean, that's probably the second longest field goal in Nebraska's history, right up to Alex Henry's 57-yarder against Colorado in 2008. Boy, I remember that one. And I like this kid. He's a true freshman, and you just see the confidence build. I think that last week's kick of 47 yards, I think that gave him all the confidence, and that was into the wind. That gave him the confidence he needed. I think now he knows I could kick in this league. And I know everybody's talked about, well, he already knew he could kick there. He did it in high school. Yeah, go back and watch his high school, that championship game for high school, how empty that stadium is. It's a big difference when you sit in Memorial Stadium and 90,000 people are watching you, and then you're sitting there at a high school game and there might be 1,100 people there. I mean, it was just nothing but an empty. I was watching. That was the first thing that stuck out to me was, I don't think I've ever seen Memorial Stadium so empty. And that's the first thing I thought of. So he had to kind of get used to that feeling, get used to that. And I think he's kind of growing into it. Now it's just a blur to him. But as a true freshman, had nerves playing for a team he probably really been rooting for all his life. So I think you're going to see him just keep improving, and we're going to have an outstanding kicker for the next 3 or 4 years. And then you saw the block field goal where Newsome picked it up and ran it all the way back. High five. Who was it? Was it Hartzog? I think he high fived. It might have been Hill. And Rule didn't like that. And I understand what Rule's thinking. He goes, "Hey, we don't want to show up a team." I didn't see it as showing up the other team. I saw it as having fun and excited what happened. I kind of like it because a lot of these players, and Newsome's one of them, haven't been able to enjoy his career. And he's a senior this year. I believe he's a senior. Let him enjoy it. I understand you don't want to show up the team, but I didn't see that situation as showing up the team. More than excited at what they were doing. They were about to walk into the touchdown because they were the only ones really around them. So it's good to see this group having fun, even when it got bad at the end, even when the turnovers came. If anything, it's making this defense solidify itself because they're not going to phase when this happens. This has happened the last 2 or 3 weeks. We'd start off the game giving the opponent outstanding field goal, already in field goal range, and the defense would hold them to nothing or maybe 3. All the way back to the Northern Illinois game where Harbaugh fumbled and gave it to him at the 5-yard line, and Nebraska kept him out of the end zone. So this defense now, when they do that, when they take over now, they're so confident now, this team ain't going to score. They just tell that offense, "We got your back. We'll go get that ball back for you." And this is going to help them down the road when they're playing Wisconsin, when they're playing Iowa. And if they do make that Big Ten championship, if you could end up turning it around and getting them, Michigan or Ohio State or somebody like that, to start give some turnovers down there, they're a real good team and they'll probably do fine. But I could see them not being in that situation before giving up that touchdown. Not saying they have a bad defense, just saying they're not used to being in that situation. Nebraska's kind of getting used to being in that. The defense is being used to being in that. And so to them, I don't think it's a big deal. It's not what you want, but I don't think it's a big deal for them. So let's get excited about this win. We're one more away. Should happen this weekend. Don't count anyone out. Michigan State's always played Nebraska tough. The good news is, usually the home team wins that game. And they only got Nebraska favored by 2. And I understand why. And this is probably the week I would state take Nebraska -2. And if you're going to do that, I'd take them now, because I believe with them being at 2 and the way Michigan State's been playing, there's going to be a lot of bets on Nebraska, and that line's going to start moving to 3, to 4, to 5 by the end of the week. They also have the over-under at 35, and I think if Nebraska does win this game by more, let's put it this way, if it go, I would take the under still at 35, because to me, if Michigan State wins this game and you lose that bet of taking Nebraska -2, you'll at least kind of come out even with the taking the under, because I would see if Michigan State did pull this game out, it's going to be definitely way under 35 points. It's going to be more of a 10-7, 12-9 game if that happens. And I got a feeling there would be a few more turnovers. Hopefully we'll have it a game where there's not any turnovers for Nebraska. Just maybe some takeaways. But right now I'd accept just not turning the ball over at all and see what happens. But glad to see what I saw. I see the improvement. I see this team now starting to believe in themselves. To me, that was a big sign when Purdue came back and scored them 14 points. That ought to have been a sign for y'all. Some of y'all that were sitting back there going, oh God, here we go again. We're going to blow this game. That's where I said this is going to show me where they're at in their development with Rule. And it went just what I wanted to see, with them sticking down going, not this day. So it's good to see that. So again, great win. Any win's a great win, as much as we've been through the last 3 or 4 years. So on to Michigan State, and I'll be putting a video out on that preview and prediction here in the next couple of days. So until that video, go Big Red.